Welcome back, baseball fans, to the 1973 off season, 73, 4, 5, 6 off season, and particularly this is the introduction to the Winter Baseball Classic for the 1973 card set. It's sort of like the spring training between the winter baseball meetings and trades and transactions that you've been watching, and actually the draft and the summer league. And the purpose of this tournament is to take a closer look at players from 1973, as this will be the last year cards from this box will be used, and then they go into storage. So it's the last chance for a lot of these players. So let me show you a peek at some of the roster building and how this works. I want you to take a look here. Momentarily here at this section of green shaded colored cards here. Players. Alphabetically, these are players who are in our summer league, but in a year other than 1973, which means 1974 or 1975, because obviously 76 is being introduced this year. So there are going to be a decent chunk of players. There should be 6 times 32 teams for 192, all said here. And these cards are not going to be part of this process. They're already stashed away into the Summer League box set. So they're exempt from participating. You could say if this was spring training, they don't need it, they're not making the trip. There's a way of looking at that. I want to skip then down to this section here, this pink shaded group. These are also players from the year of 73 that I wrote into the league, grabbing their stats from Baseball Reference and their teams they were on, just to redistribute these cards, merge them into Strat-O-Matic's original print set, so that they can be redistributed throughout the league, so that all 32 of our Summer League teams have a 20-man roster. Because these stats are invalid, I don't even use these cards either. So that's 2 groups of players who are not in use. I've also copied from previous Winter Baseball Classics from 72, 71, 70, and 69. The player, which team he was assigned to, just for sorting purposes, so that I can steer the player to the same spring training site year after year after year. Because you have to understand, some years they aren't in the league because their active card is in the Summer League, and then they would return to this league when their active card is up for renewal. So generally I keep a level of consistency of the carryover league year after year of the Winter Baseball Classic, so I know who's being added, year 1, year 2, year 3, etc. I also, as far as players who didn't make the cut, we have a section of players who have yet to be in the league of 1973 because their performance is pretty bad. And then we figured out a way to get those players into this tournament, Winter Baseball Classic tournament, just to get their eyes on them, just to play these cards at least once before the box is stashed away. Now, unfortunately, there's still going to be a player or two who are never going to play. And here is an example here, Jim Panther. He's got a 7.63 ERA, which basically means he was the 26th best and worst right-handed pitcher in this card set, and I had no interest in having playing games. So he was kicked out of the league, so to speak, or he didn't make the cut, I should say. And then there's going to be other guys in this group here, if it's unshaded in this white here, for example, Milt Wilcox was the 15th, graded as the 15th available right-handed pitcher. That still wasn't good enough to get in our league. Eddie Fisher was graded as the 14th. Not good enough to get into this little tournament. We see Dave Hilton here. The 503 means 5 is third base, 3 is the third best third baseman available with a 197 batting average. He didn't make the cut. Steve Dunning, R21. Ernie McAnally, for some reason, a lot of reasonably good pitching in this league, and it's probably an oversight that we didn't get the McAnally card in there because he's got a 4.04 ERA, suggesting that he's good enough. We just didn't have enough roster spots. You only have 16 teams. So unfortunately, a good quality Ernie McAnally card will not get used and analyzed in the league, but that doesn't mean he can't get drafted into the summer league. So that's still a possibility. And you see some other players here highlighted in this white shade. There was a guy on the retirement list, and we kept him there, Jim McLaughlin, who had a 6.68 ERA. We have players on waivers, and which are 64 of them. That's 2 players are put on waivers by our 32 teams. The point was to get all of these guys, or most of these guys, into this tournament. However, again, for competitive reasons, there were players who were kicked out of this tournament as well because they're just not very good. McAndrew has got a 5.38 ERA. John Kennedy, it's 181. Johnny Callison, 176. Bill Stoneman's got a 6.80 ERA. Steve Blass has a 9.85 ERA. Bill Parsons, 6.79. You get the idea that these guys' cards are so bad. Even though they made the waiver list, they probably should have been on the retirement list. But there they sit, practically not to get drafted in our summer league anyway. Down here as well in this group up here is our league, our Winter Baseball Classic Tournament League. Below this line here are players who didn't make it. Indicated in this cyan blue color are guys assigned on the keeper list who will be in our summer league, but probably not with their 73 card. Dick Bosman's got a 5.64 ERA. He's got better performances in 74, 5, and 6. As does Gary Ross. Scroll down a little bit. As does Dave Goltz, Mike Torres, Jim Willoughby, and Mickey Scott. They all have better performances, but not in the year of 1973. Then there's one other section of players that we can pull cards from to play in the league. And that is this mint green color. This mint green color means that the card exists for draft purposes for this tournament. However, that player is already in the league with a 74 or 75 card. And so this is going to be a talented group of players. However, for purposes of this tournament, if you keep adding these green mint colored players, you're kicking out an opportunity to analyze a free agent or a player on waivers or a player that's a keeper. So it's almost a last resort to add this talented group. You're adding it, it's a plus and minus. You're adding it to make the competition better and have some more talent in this tournament to make it interesting. But by adding these players, you are not allowing Milt Wilcox, Eddie Fisher, etc., to participate in the tournament. So it's a when I'm putting these rosters together, adding these mint green cards is the last step for competitive reasons until I'm ready to start playing games. Let's go take a look at a team. And there are 20-man rosters, just like our summer league, 12 hitters and 8 pitchers. And ATH stands for Athens, Georgia. So that is one of the 16 towns that hosts the Winter Baseball Classic. And my thought about how to create new places to play baseball was that your Major League Baseball players, under this premise, they wouldn't just go to the traditional Major League Baseball grapefruit and cactus league sites. In other words, if you wanted to go to Athens because you maybe live near there or in the South, you'd go to Athens. We have 16 places to play across the U.S. and in Canada. And so players could decide to go where they wanted to go, instead of them being forced to play with their team. This allows players to play with players they haven't played with before, but perhaps they might regionally make it a desirable location to play based on the region they're in. Now, I have to say at this time, I haven't done that much digging to know where these guys are from or where they live and so forth and so on. It's simply a premise to say that a player has, assigned to one of the 16 sites for the tournament. So ATH is the Athens, Georgia site. And when we look at the site, we strive to get 4 waivered players on each of these sites. We've got 64 waivered players. We have 16 teams, so that's 4 per site. And so Athens actually has 4. Now, there's a caveat here. Glenn Beckert, Ted Martinez, Milt Pappas were put on waivers. In the case here, Joe LaHood is a replacement player for a player who was very bad. LaHood would be a left-handed hitting outfielder, and I believe he replaced Johnny Callison. So Johnny Callison was assigned to Athens originally. Statistically, we didn't think Callison's going to play anymore. So we replaced him with Joe LaHood, who's just a little bit better. LaHood will play in our summer league, we believe, in either the 74 or 73 season. But anyway, as a one-way player, he's got a .611 OPS, which isn't that bad. So Athens does have 4 guys from the waiver list. They have a lot of keeper players, which is, again, this is also very important information, as we're trying to determine which year keeper are we going to use. We've already made a web sheet, and maybe I can bring that up, indicating what are the most desirable years for that. And here that is. So we have available to us when we know which of the years is best for our keeper players. Is it 73? Is it 76, 75? We have that information, but still, when it comes down to like a coin flip, if you're not sure, or maybe we just need a little bit more investigation, what better way to investigate than play the cards? So this is an opportunity to play the cards, and then if a guy gets hot in this tournament, you're like, well, wait a minute. I didn't want to draft this card. I've just played in a tournament and he's tearing it up. Maybe I really should think about using this card in our summer league. So you see, that's where the K's and the W's here come in. When we're looking at these, the white ones here, we're looking at Rich Hand as the 10th best pitcher. We're looking at J.R. Richard was the 2nd best free agent pitcher. Ken Reitz was the first eligible 3rd baseman. You get the idea there. And then on this list, remember I said the mint green guys, they're not going to help investigate for our summer league. They're just going to make our league they're going to make this tournament more competitive. We added Ed Kranepool's card as a left-handed hitting first baseman. He's pretty good. So we got him to play first base because they didn't have anybody better than that. So that's why that mint green colored card is there. So that explains all the avenues of how players get situated into the Winter Baseball Classic. If I page down at the top here, the next group, CIC, is for the Coney Island Cyclones, in New York, Coney Island. And you see they have in yellow wavered players, of which they have 1, 2, 3, 4. They're also in bold. Some keeper guys indicated in this blue. This particular group has a lot of this mint green colored players. A lot of times they're simply carrying on from the previous year's Winter Baseball Classic for consistency. This helps me year to year remember where guys are in the tournament. So it's just not completely randomized and shuffled around. So there is a level of consistency year to year. I don't know if it's 50% or 75%, where players are in the tournament year to year and on the same team. But we want to strive for that as well. We're trying to do a lot of different things simultaneously with minimal compromise. We want to get our eyes on as many free agents as possible. We want to get a true evaluation of keeper players. We want to get a competitive, fun tournament. And we want to have guys play with other guys that they've been playing with in this, tournament that they would not normally have played with in traditional Major League Baseball. For example, because I bring Coney Island up, this is where I've wanted to put a lot of the New York Yankees and the New York Met players together, if I could. They normally have had Tom Seaver and Jim Palmer as teammates, but both Seaver and Palmer are using their 1973 cards, so that's why they're not here. But looking at Yankees and Mets on this team, you've got Cleon Jones, Pat Dobson's here. We also have some Orioles here. Brooks Robinson, Boog Powell, Elliot Maddox was a Yankee. You get the idea. There's not as many as there normally would be. And then paging down, HAX, that's Halifax, Nova Scotia. Funny thing is, these 16 places I selected were just, frankly, they were kind of just like a tribute, or I don't know if that's the right word, but an acknowledgement of places that I've traveled to and had some fun on vacation and so forth. And so I thought it'd be kind of cool to go non-traditionally, picking places that aren't big cities that have Major League Baseball teams. So that's why we chose a lot of really random places for this. HOH is the Hollywood Hills. I like to put a lot of the Dodgers or the LA, California players on that team if I can. We got a team in Memphis, Tennessee. We have a team in Chula Vista down in Southern California, right near the border there. We call it Mexico. Mississippi. We've envisioned kind of a notion of a gambling barge in the river that's set up for baseball. Wouldn't that be fun? That was a thought anyway. People go on those, tourists do, and do their gambling where, you kind of just have a barge where you actually can put a baseball diamond there and play baseball. Was my thought. Kind of funny. Missoula, Montana, beautiful place. New Orleans, of course, probably obviously the biggest city that doesn't have a Major League Baseball team. Rhode Island, gets a lot of Boston Red Sox players. Savannah, Georgia, beautiful city there in the south. There were 4 Sunbelt cities. Charleston, South Carolina as well. We got SeaTac, Seattle, Tacoma, and we had to do that so we didn't replicate Seattle, the Seattle Mariners. So we have it Seattle, Tacoma, St. Petersburg, Florida, and I don't have the Tampa Bay Rays in my league because it's much earlier than they would come into existence. So St. Petersburg, home of the Salvador Dali Museum, is a site. Tucson, Arizona, beautiful place. Vancouver Island on Victoria, and that's 32 locations. We have drafted 32 player rosters, and we can take a look at the tournament setup. We have 4 regions. We have what we call the island region. It originally was the New England or Northeast U.S. region. We had a fourth team, but that would be Burlington, Vermont, which is not here. We had to go move Vancouver, which is on the west coast, over here because it's Vancouver Island, and you have Coney Island, Rhode Island, and Vancouver Island. As you can see, as far as transportation goes, this was completely unfeasible. You have to understand the premise here is a fiction, but it's kind of a fun fiction. We have what we call the Sun Belt because the location of these is very Athens, Georgia, Savannah, Georgia, Charleston, South Carolina, and St. Petersburg, Florida. So it's all in the Sun Belt in the southeast. And then these are off the Mississippi River, Gulf of Mexico, New Orleans, Memphis, Mississippi. Tucson, which was out west, had to be sent here. Oddly enough, we lost the Ohio players to our summer league. Left the tournament to go here. Speaking of which, the tournament existed before our summer league. So the tournament goes back to the 1990s. And eventually it was used to do this analysis. But this is the first foray, I guess you could say, into fictionalized baseball places. And yeah, so we had Burlington, Vermont here, and we had the Ohio players here, and we had Las Vegas, and we had Portland. Now these four cities, towns, are all in our summer league. The Ohio players in the fall league just won the Fall League World Series, playing out of Dayton, Ohio, in the same division with the Cleveland Indians, oddly. The Montreal Expos, we just had them cross the border into Burlington, Vermont, instead of relocating to the Washington Nationals. And of course we have Las Vegas and Portland as teams 31 and 32 in our league. The fourth and final division is the West Coast. SeaTac, Missoula, Montana in the northwest. And then in the southwest corner you have Hollywood and Chula Vista down there near Cardiff, and Coronado in San Diego down near the border there with Mexico. So those are the 16 locations. We have the results from last year, where Savannah, Georgia won the tournament. It's not bragging rights, you know, it doesn't lead to anything more than winning the tournament. But Savannah won that tournament, beating Hollywood. And this is the one-loss record for last year, which becomes the seeding for this year. So Savannah is a number 1 seed. Athens, Georgia will be number 4 seed. So there you see Athens will play Savannah in the first round of the tournament. So the tournament schedule is the first round of the tournament, the 4 seeds in each group play a best of 7. In gray is the results from a year ago. So after you get a winner and a loser, you have a winner's bracket and a loser's bracket. The loser's bracket plays a best of 5, the loser goes home. The winner plays a best of 5, they get a bye. And then the other 2 teams play in the next round of 3. So you end up with a round of 3 with 8 teams, 4 teams with a bye. And then after further seeding, you have a round of 5, a round of 7, and then a championship. The final 4 is like a league championship and World Series. They're best of 7s. So it's a fun little 3-week tournament of games. It's about 120 some games. Last year was 125 games. It's a fun little tournament to play for about 3 weeks. How long it might take anybody to play 125 games or so. And it ends as the draft begins for the Summer League. I have lifetime records, which is remarkable that I've been putting this together for so long. And lifetime, as it turns out, Savannah still has one of the best. There it is. From lowest winning percentage to highest winning percentage, and the years they've won this tournament. From 2006 to 2024, I've been keeping results, but I started this in the 1990s. Savannah's won the tournament 4 times, in 06, 18, 19, and last year 2024. Yet, their lifetime record is 4 under 500. Of all these locations, New Orleans has the highest winning percentage at 549. They're 180 and 148, winning the tournament twice. Unfortunately, the team out of Chula Vista has never won the tournament and has the worst winning percentage. SeaTac hasn't won. Vancouver Island, Rhode Island, Athens, they haven't won yet. But that's a lot of information. It's over 2,000 games. And as you can see, we're in the 19th year of this tournament, which goes well beyond the duration of our summer league. It's kind of fun. Something I look forward to. Again, it's such a big fiction, though the one part of this premise that's not a fiction is that in the carryover league, we're mixing cards from different years and having them play together, which doesn't. Obviously, you're going to lose if you do that. You lose any accuracy, historical accuracy. But at least in this tournament, everybody's in the same year, so everybody would be competing like it would be spring training of 1973. Though the players are all shuffled around, but at least statistically, all the cards statistics are in the same season. So I think I've done a wrap of all of the information I wanted to present. I'm going to start playing the tournament. Game 1 will be Savannah beginning a quest to repeat and win an incredible 5th championship. They will host Athens, Georgia in a best-of-7, start the tournament off. Game 1 will be John Matlack, who's got a very good keeper card for Athens, and Bob Gibson's really last good 1973 card with Savannah. That'll be Game 1. I'll be playing. I'm not going to broadcast the early games of the tournament, but I'm going to start broadcasting middle round games until we get to the championship, like a year ago. And that is enough of an introduction for the 1973 Winter Baseball Classic. I hope you appreciate how it's broken down and why it exists and how it helps understand the 1973 card set just a little bit more, so that it can help me when I do the draft for our summer league to make the summer league as competitive as possible. So thanks for tuning in tonight, and we'll see you next time.